Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to National Work Experience Week for our second webinar of today. I'm your host, Andy from CareerMap TV, and today we are joined by IBM to discuss their school leaver opportunities. Remember, this session is recorded, so if you do miss any information, don't worry, as it will be uploaded to our website and on the YouTube channel. There will also be a Q&A at the end of the webinar, so feel free to leave any questions in the chat and Q&A box, and we'll return to them after this session. So without further ado, I will pass on to Liam from IBM to continue with our session.
Thanks very much. Hi guys, welcome to the session. My name is Liam Moore. I currently work at IBM as a talent acquisition partner, which is a fancy phrase for recruitment, should we say. We unfortunately don't do particular work experience schemes at IBM. There are times where we do have people come in and then do little stints of work, but we don't have like a formal scheme as such. But I thought today might be best to speak a little bit about IBM because I appreciate that we're a company who have changed a lot over the years. So maybe it might be interesting to know a little bit about us as an employer, what we kind of get up to, what kind of spaces we work in. And then I do have a little bit of a segment at the end as well, which talks about what opportunities we do have, so that you can kind of be thinking about whether it's something that you might like to apply to, when would be the key times to look out for these opportunities, and really put you in good stead for the year coming up with the opportunities that we do have. So if we just move to the next slide. So just for this session, we'll be doing a little bit of a welcome and why IBM, talk to you a little bit about what we do for about 30 minutes or so. And then we've got a little bit of a section, like I said, talking to about the opportunities that we have available and when in the year they will be available to apply to, and then a question and answer at the end as well. So like as Andy said, if you do have any questions, just feel free to pop them in the chat. What I'll probably do is I'll probably go through all the content and have them at the end. Might be the easiest way, just so if you do have a question, we might cover it later on. But if we don't, we'll address it at the end as well. So as I said, I'm a talent acquisition partner, which is a fancy way of saying recruitment. I thought it might be a bit nice to speak about myself, just to give you an idea as to how I came into IBM and why I'm still here. But I originally joined as an intern. That picture of myself with me on my intern year. So that was back in 2017. So one of the opportunities we have is a 12-month placement for university students. That's where they take a year out of their degree, come and work with us for 12 months, and then return back to university to finish their degree afterwards. So I did that. I was an intern, and then after I finished my degree in 2019, I had an agreement with IBM to come back as well, to work in the HR department. So I joined back as a compensation specialist, which again is a funny name. It's not where if you have an accident in the workplace, it's not where there's a blame, where there's a claim sort of compensation. It's compensation is basically everything and anything to do with how we compensate people for the work that they do. So it could be salaries, it could be promotions, it could be bonuses, it could be things like overtime, if they work out of hours, sort of thing. Retention bonuses could all be due with that sort of area. So I would work as a bit like a consultant with areas of the business. They might have, say, for example, an employee who is key talent and they would like to learn their options about how to retain them, how to compensate them differently. And I would kind of work with them to tell them what kind of options that they've got, and put proposals forward. So that's what I did when I joined back. I did that for 2.5 years. And then last year in February, I made the move into a new role where I would be leading our recruitment strategy and programs for our UK labs department. So the picture of me there as on my intern year, that's in our IBM Early office, which is predominantly our UK labs site. So I will look at hiring interns, summer placements, and graduates for the software labs. So that's what I've been doing from February last year, and that's what I'm continuing to do today. So the reason why I spoke a little bit about myself is because I've kind of had a unique journey in a career. So I've been an intern, I've been a graduate, and weirdly, I'm actually an apprentice now. And I think I kind of wanted to make that apparent on this call because we're going to do a poll in a little minute as well. just to kind of understand whereabouts people are in thinking about their career, whether they know what they want to do or not. And I think it's perfectly fine. It's going to be a 1 to 10 sort of question, but some people might be a 10 where they definitely know what they want to do in their career, and that's great. That means you can channel all your efforts into where you want to be and what you need to learn to get there. But even if you're a 1 on the other side of the scale, there's nothing wrong with that. In a way, it means that you're open to all sorts of opportunities, and the more opportunities that you can be part of, the more you know what you do like and what you don't like, and then you eventually get closer and closer to where you want to be. So I'd say I'm still in that point where I'm learning a lot. I decided to do the apprenticeship because I haven't actually got a formal qualification in HR. I've actually got a background degree in psychology, which has a little bit of layover with human resources, but not as much as you would want. So I decided to do that, and if all goes well, I should hopefully finish that in September. But these opportunities are kind of all available, no matter what part of your career you're at. I had a colleague who was I think she's about five. I don't want to know her age, and I won't ask her age, but I think she's about 5 years off of retirement, and she's actually did the apprenticeship that I'm doing 2 years ago. So I think it's one of the key things for IBM is that if you show the knack and want to learn new things, very rarely IBM will say no to that. They're all about investing in skills and doing what they can to push you on further in your career. So that's a little bit about me. What I think what Andy's just done now is he's just released the poll. So if you want to go in and have a little look at the question, it's for those of you who can't see it or want me to read it out. It's on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not so sure and 10 being certain. Do you know what you want to do as a career? It's just to kind of get everyone engaging and having a little bit of a think about where you might be at on that sort of scale. Because I'm sure I'll be able to cover a lot of things which will appeal to all sorts of people on the scale. But it's absolutely fine. If you're not a 10, that's absolutely fine. We haven't got any 1s so far, but we do have a 2, which is absolutely fine. So I didn't know what I wanted to do at all when I was in school. And I think my parents got very frustrated with me because I could never choose anything. So instead, they kind of have to go around the way of, well, if you can't choose what you want to do, just do what you enjoy, which is a big thing. I think it makes things a lot easier as well. If you pick subjects or you pick job opportunities or volunteer opportunities that you think you might enjoy, I think that's always good to find out what you might actually want to do as a career, and it might have open doors as well for later on in your career. So I didn't know what degree I wanted to do. And I only chose psychology because a friend of mine in GCSE did it as a GCSE, and it sounded really, really interesting. So I thought, well, it's a bit too late for me to choose that as a GCSE, so I'll choose it as an A level. Did quite well at A level, and then thought, well, I don't know what else I want to do. I'll just continue doing that for a few more years and see what happens. So yeah, you never know. But I think the most important thing is keeping doors open and trying new things, because you'll never know unless you try things. So we've got a few on 1s and 2s, couple on 4s. Majority seems to be 5, which is middle of the road. That's not too bad. We do have a lot of I think the next one is 20% on 10. So that's really, really good that a lot of you know what you would like to do as a career. I think because you're at such a important part of your lives, I think knowing what you want to do is really, really useful, because you know exactly what you need to do to get there, or what kind of things you need to invest your time in, and you can really make good use of your time. So it's really good that you know what you want to do. We do have quite a few 8s and 9s as well, so good selection. Yeah, good selection. Cool. If you want to keep on filling on that, we can have a look at what that says at the end as well to see whether it's changed much. But good to know what kind of the audience that we have today is. So what I'll do now is so here's what you take away from the session as well. So we'll take a bit of an understanding of what IBM's work is and what the impacts we have on the world as well. A little bit of peek into the life of what it's like as an IBMer. So we'll show you a little bit of the things that we have access to as employees. Some of the things might be, standard. Other things you might be a bit surprised as to the extent of which we have access to certain things. So I'll show you a little bit about that as well. What opportunities we have, when they are available as well, and details how to apply as well. So we've got a set page at the end, which is all about our socials page, and we post all of our opportunities there. So it's the best place to keep up to date with those when they go live. And then, of course, any questions that you want to answer, I will try my best to answer them. However, if I can't answer them, I will take them away. I'll also say to you, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, I can get back to you on that sort of platform. But I'll do my best. I don't know everything, but I'll give it a good go and see what kind of questions we get. Excuse me. So talking a bit about IBM, and this kind of segment is to kind of give you an idea of what kind of individuals we have working for us, and what kind of ideas that they have as a person, and see whether it kind of resonates with you. Obviously, we have a diverse workforce, so not all of these things will be applicable to you, and you may not resonate with all of them. But if you're starting to think about, oh, that's a bit like me, I'm a bit like that way, I think about that sort of things, then it very much might be that you're a good fit for us, and we're a good fit for you as a company as well. So we have these three pillars which we refer to. The first one being possibility, the second being curiosity, and the third being individuality. So if you were to pick a random IBMer, it's very likely that they would fit into all three of these categories. And I'll tell a little bit about each of them in their own right, so you can really understand what it means to IBM to have possibility, curiosity, and individuality. They are pretty self-explanatory, but the first one being possibility. So we say this as one of our pillars because of the different types of ways that we can provide impact, purpose, and really support our clients in the work that we actually do. So we tend to say there's nothing that's really impossible. If we have the right attitude and have the right mentality on certain things, then anything is possible, whether that be in the work that we actually do, or even opportunities as well. So take me, for example, me thinking that I can't do anything more to further better myself, but here's the opportunity of doing an apprenticeship. I thought that wasn't even going to be possible, but unless you actually make yourself known and put that idea forward to like your manager and things like that, turns out it is very much possible. I wouldn't say I regret it. It is a lot of work, and I'm lucky. I'm looking forward to seeing the end of it. But something which made me feel quite daunted by it, the support and people around you in your team can really lighten that load for you and make those possibilities possible. So yeah, that's kind of the first pillar that we talk about. And when I also mention possibilities, we talk about the work that we do with our clients, which brings us on to what is it that we actually do for all our clients. So it's an interesting time at IBM at the moment. So we're doing a massive shift from what we used to do, and I don't know if many of you know, but a little fun fact as well. I believe the very first invention or the very first business that we delved into when we were first created was we used to create meat and cheese slicers, which is quite a weird concept, especially when you think about like the modern day and what we can actually do with technology nowadays. You wouldn't have thought that was something that we did back in the day. Safe to say we've moved on from that. We've developed our technology further than just cutting meat and cheese. But we kind of stick around in these sort of five main areas. So the first one being artificial intelligence. So we've got our Watson AI technology, which we actually use with clients to kind of automate their processes and make things a lot easier for them and their challenges that they have. So that's a big technology and area we delve into. We also have the IBM Cloud as well. So working with our clients on making a lot of their information and data accessible around the world with ease as well, and not having all their data stored on site. So we work with numerous different clients to kind of incorporate or upgrade their client services and see what we can do for them in that sort of space. Blockchain as well. This was a technology that I didn't know a lot about in my intern year. But when I talk about what it's like to be in IBM and the things we have access to, I can talk a little bit more about how I went about learning more about that. But it's essentially a transaction ledger which you can implement and have access to, but multiple people in the process that they would have access to it, and you can all keep track of all sorts of transactions which are going across the world. For example, take farmers, for example. farmers may have products that they sell or grow and sell, but they would go through a process from the moment that their produce is picked all the way up until it's bought from a consumer. And each of the people in between that process may have access to blockchain technology to understand exactly where their products have come from, when they were serviced, when they were picked, straight into the point at which they've been bought by supermarkets, for example. And it's a really interesting technology and secure technology to see where exactly products are coming from and to know that they're coming from a trusted source. So that's very interesting. Quantum as well. So we have IBM Q, which is our quantum computer, which is currently the most advanced quantum computer, soon to be released in the market as well for our clients. At the moment, a lot of companies and businesses have, we would say, quantum computers which are in maybe like prototype stage to see how they perform and things like that. But we're actually close to actually putting them on the market so that they are available to our consumers. And for those of you who don't know about quantum computing, another area maybe for a bit of research as well, it's unbelievable what these pieces of technology can do, solving problems that we first thought to be impossible, but could be solved in a matter of minutes. And they just have an unrelentless amount of power to be able to compute certain situations and problems to solve them, which could be huge for a science level or even a business level aspects as well. And then finally, IBM Consulting. So we actually have our own consulting wing as part of our business, which the consulting department, they kind of delve into all technologies with all sorts of clients. So we could have a consultant who works with a particular group or client that we have, working with them as the first point of contact to understand their problems, their needs as a business, and how IBM as a partner could aid them in their journey as a business using, for example, could be multiple of ones of these technologies, or it could be something completely different. But yeah, it's our consultancy firm has been growing and growing, I think, over the last 10 years or so. And we have a lot of early professionals as well who join our consultancy program from the very beginning and stay with us until senior consultants or even leaders. So it's a really interesting time to be at IBM. There's just so much that you could be involved in. And then I'll talk about now the second pillar, so curiosity. And this is all about the individuals. So what it is like to think like an IBMer, to act like an IBMer. And when we talk about curiosity, we're talking about culture, people, ways of working, really talking about that. We all have curious minds, even myself, figuring out what it is that I could be doing my role better, what it is that I could actually get involved in outside of my day job, questioning what I actually do and whether it's being done the right way, whether there's a ways we could do things better. And it's always that constant thinking of improvement. Not just settling on what we've got and doing it because it's easy, but really challenging what we've got and how we can better ourselves. I think individuals who think like that would fit in really, really well with our business. And the reason why I say always wanting to learn is because we have so much available to IBMers, completely free of charge. It's literally access that we have on a day-to-day basis whenever we want to, whenever we have free time. We really encourage employees to do as much learning as possible in areas that they're interested in, or to keep up to date with the latest areas of development. So we have this thing called Your Learning, which is, I'll essentially describe it as like an online library, which may sound boring, but it's not just full of books that you have to read as part of an assignment. It's essentially, if you have a certain area that you don't really know much about, but you think the client that you're working with speaks about it a lot, and you might want to develop your understanding of that area to kind of help them and understand their needs more, you could type that area. So take quantum, for example. You could type it into Your Learning, and it will show you everything that IBM has, whether that be a digital credential, webinar series that you can watch to understand it further, TED Talks, that sort of thing as well. We basically collated all this information and given it to you at the drop of a hat. And you can go in and bookmark things. You can start learning about certain things and come back to it later. But it's all available to you if you ever have any problems or any areas or gaps that you need to fill with learning. It's likely that Your Learning's got it all for you. And that's all free of charge. You can do that as much as you like. We have this thing called Think 40 as well, where we ask that all individuals do 40 hours minimum of independent learning. Um, and you think 40 hours across the year tends to be quite a lot, but you'll realize that you'll probably be doing learning throughout your whole 12 months and not even realize it. All you've got to do is go into the tool and log it. But a lot of things as well, like those sort of things on your learning, it'll all be automatic once you complete it. You'll get the hours, the minutes that you spent learning on it, and it all keeps track of that, which is pretty easy. We've got your career and your guides at IBM as well. So not only is it about learning about certain areas, but maybe roles, for example, as well. We have a huge emphasis on internal mobility, which is all about trying new things, moving roles, but staying under IBM as a company. And your career is a great way of finding out what's out there, who's currently looking for new employees to move into their team internally. And you get notifications based on job recommendations as well, based on your preferences or even the things that you've been learning about. So I'm very interested in data and data science, and I've done a lot of data modules on your learning, and I actually get job recommendations of when areas of the business are looking for a data scientist, and you can literally just click it, and if it's something you'd be interested in or is in an office nearby to you and you wouldn't mind traveling there, you can even apply just by one click of a button. And then you usually get in contact with the manager, have a good conversation with them, and see whether the role will be right for you. And the same with your guides as well. So we think of your guys as like volunteers, so you can put yourself up as like a mentor in a certain area. And if you're looking for some guidance from someone on certain areas, you can make yourself available to receive a mentor, and you can communicate with them. It could be around the world, it could be in the same country, and they've helped you develop the skills that you're looking to develop, which is really helpful. Same for digital badges. You can find a lot of them on your learning as well, and they're also free. You can go in and complete one of them, and you can then attach it to your LinkedIn and say that I've done this module, and receive the qualification for it as well. And skills build for students as well. So that's if you type in IBM skills build, that's actually available to people who aren't IBMers, and it's a great way to get started with learning skills that would really help you in terms of securing a role with us, but not just with us either. It's all learning about all sorts of skills that would be good for future employers as well. But it's a great way of, if students or early professionals, for example, are looking for somewhere to start, that's a really good place to start as well, considering it's free to everyone. You just have to Google Skills Build IBM. So it's mental, some of the things that we have available for people. And so I've spoken about some of the opportunities that we have, but we also have this thing called the IBMers Toolkit as well. So I always think of this about like a utility belt, if anybody is into like superheroes or things like that. This is what an IBMer would have on their utility belt. So we use WebEx a lot for our video calls, conferences, anything like that with other IBMers in the company. We have Slack as well, which is really good. It's a lot similar to Discord, if anybody uses Discord, where you have like channels, groups, and things like that, but you can also message people one-on-one as well. It's a really collaborative tool now because you can even call people on it as well. So WebEx is probably being used less and less because it's a lot easier to just call someone if you're chatting to them anyway. Mural as well. So Mural is like a massive corkboard online, and if you have like a bit of a brainstorm idea for a little bit of a project work, people can put post-it notes everywhere, write ideas down, save it, come back to it, that sort of thing. So it's a really collaborative tool as well. We use Box, which is a bit like Google Drive, or we use like file share and things like that. And Trello is one of my personal favorites because I have a memory like a goldfish. I can't seem to remember what I need to do on a day-to-day basis. So Trello is like a massive checklist. But if you're one of those people who have multiple things on the go and you have to do it in certain stages, you can have like columns of like, oh, I've got bring these candidates or set up these interviews, and I can put them into like a doing silo or completed, that sort of thing. And it's quite a satisfying way to see what you completed on certain days or even weeks. But that's a really good tool. And I think that's available outside of IBM as well. That's not an IBM tool. I don't think any of these are IBM tools. So maybe, for example, if you're at school and you're thinking of a way of collaborating better amongst the groups, maybe you think about using one of these tools. Also, a very important aspect of our working lives as well is all about being inclusive and having diversity and inclusion and right at the forefront of everything that we do. So one of the things that I'll speak about that I don't think a lot of people know that we do is we have these things called business resource groups, or BRGs for short. We like to use acronyms at IBM that can get very confusing. But if you ever hear BRGs and IBM together in the same sentence, it's probably that they're talking about business resource groups. And it's basically a volunteer scheme where we have certain business groups like I think we have like African Caribbean Society. We have a P. I'm going to butcher this acronym as well. This is why we have so many acronyms. PWDA, which is People with Diverse Abilities, BRG as well. And it's basically these groups which people come together. They have normal day-to-day jobs in IBM, but they have such a strong passion for these different groups that they get together and form a BRG so that they can put on events, create awareness around their particular cause, so that people have a better understanding of these groups, to be more inclusive, to really think about the ways that they work and how they can tailor it to be more inclusive to others, especially for people they don't even know who could have have diverse abilities. For example, taking PWDA as an example. And they literally just do it on the back of their own hat, and it's something that anybody can get involved with. It's just a case of finding which BRG you'd like to, support and be a volunteer for, contacting the leads for them, and then I'm sure they, no one ever says no to you joining, because they would love to have as many people, spreading the word and backing them as well. So we do a lot about those sort of things inside IBM, but it's a shame that we don't actively promote it as well. I think we should do more about that, like on a website, for example. That's just my personal opinion, because I think it's such a great initiative to get involved with, and would be a real attraction point for some of our candidates as well. And then lastly, I know I've been talking a long time, and I apologize, I will get to some other stuff as well. But individuality is the last pillar as well. So this is all about career progression, yourself as an individual, and being able to bring your whole self to work as well. So a bit similar to what we were talking about with the diversity inclusion. IBM's kind of culture is very much, not everyone's the same. Everybody's different, and that is perfectly fine. We strongly encourage that. We've got people. So, for example, in my team, we've got a pretty senior manager who's my manager, and I don't see her very often. She is a particular individual who likes to dress up really, really smart. Every day, that's her image, that's her thing, and that's perfectly fine. Me, I'm not a well-polished individual. I'd probably say a suit does not come out for me in my wardrobe ever. But I like to come dressed to work, comfortable myself. Maybe I like wearing vibrant colors. Maybe that's my thing. And no one looks at you any differently. If that's your thing and that's what you're comfortable with, as long as you're dressed for your audience that day, no one's going to be bad an eyelid. Obviously, I wouldn't be coming in with in my pajamas, for example, because that probably wouldn't be the best thing for my audience. But on a day where I'm not seeing any key stakeholders, I'm not dealing with candidates on an assessment center face to face, it's perfectly fine to come in, jeans, blue jeans, t-shirt, that sort of thing. I think if that's what you're comfortable with and that's how you're going to perform best at your work, nobody's going to ever speak badly about you. For example, in the Hersley Labs, for example, in the UK, we have a lot of software developers there, a lot of creative people, a lot of techie people. And in the summer, they love to wear flip-flops, and there is nothing wrong with that. Nobody questions it. If that's what they're comfortable with, you go ahead and wear flip-flops, Crocs, anything you like. It's really not. No one really. I wouldn't say care, but if that's you and that's what you're comfortable with, that's fine by everyone else. So we strongly encourage that individuality, and not for you to pretend to be someone you're not. We just want you to be comfortable and be your best selves. We also have a lot of what should I say, opportunities. Again, I'm speaking more about things that we as a company offer individuals to support them, not only in their career but also their well-being as well. So, for example, we have a lot of learning and networking events. It's endless, the amount of things that we put on, that is completely optional as well. So you don't have to attend them all, you don't have to attend any. But we put them on to ensure that they are there in case anybody wants to get involved, widen their network, try new things, that sort of thing. Volunteer opportunities as well. We have a massive volunteer scheme, which is quite oddly satisfying because you can get volunteer badges. So if you complete a certain amount of hours in volunteer opportunities, whether that be in, for, or outside of IBM, you can get bronze volunteer badge, silver, gold, that sort of thing. And it's a way of recognizing that and encouraging you to do so. And we can do that on IBM's time as well. So a really good opportunity there. Recognition programs as well. So we, as a company, have this thing called Blue Points, which is essentially like an IBM currency, which managers and employees get awarded a budget at the beginning of the year. And it's a way of recognizing other people for either supporting you, doing work with you, things like that. And it can basically be used as like and this might be me showing my age, but like a Argos catalog, for example. We have one of those for IBM. And it has a load of items on there which aren't bad items. You know, they're really good things that you can get. If you save enough points, you can get something as big as like an iPad. What was I bought recently? I'm into building computers, so I actually bought a new CPU for my PC. But I know a lot of people as well. They buy lawn mowers, jet washers, blenders, this sort of thing. Basically, anything you can get on Amazon is probably on there. But you can also use them for Amazon vouchers as well. So anything that's not on there that is on Amazon, you can use them for that as well. But yeah, it's a great way of being able to like saying thank you to colleagues and really rewarding them and showing your appreciation through giving some of these points. Just one of the many recognition programs that we've got. Wellness resources, resilience toolkits as well. In Hersley, we actually have a wellness center. There's like rooms which you can go into to really kind of like take a step back from work when it's a bit too stressful. I think you can put a massage chair in there, which I'm yet to go and try out because I think it's free. But it's things like that, little things like that, where they really think that if days are hard, and they will be hard, work, it can be very, very challenging, and even like balancing work and outside of work life as well can be very challenging. But there's things there that can really help and support you through your days as well. Okay, so I've spoken quite a lot about IBM, which is all really useful stuff. Might be some areas there that you might identify to go away and learn a bit more about. But what I will start talking about now is job opportunities. So there's a hyperlink there, ibm.com/jobs/UK, which you can go to, and it'll take you to our careers website where you can see what kind of job opportunities are currently being posted. But there's also down at the bottom a register your interest button as well. So you can fill out a very short form, and it's so that we have your details to contact you when opportunities that you're interested in become available. We literally just send you an email and say, look, we saw you registered your interest for this. We've got something very, very similar or the exact thing you're looking for. It's open now for however many days. We'd love you to apply, sort of thing. So it's a really good way of keeping up to date with the opportunities that we have. But some of the things that we cover that might be applicable to yourself. So we have gap year, which is probably the closest thing we have to a formal work experience program. So it's called the Futures Internship Scheme, which is aimed at students who are just finishing their studies and may not know what they want to do yet. It may be a case of, do I want to go to university? Not sure. Do I want to do an apprenticeship? Not sure. But I would love to get 12 months under my belt of actually working for a company. So we have that, which is aimed at those individuals. We have one that's very common, so apprenticeship schemes. We do level 4 and level 6 apprenticeships, which you can apply for as long as you've got the minimum requirements for each of them. You can apply for and go through our recruitment process that way. They cover quite a few different ones, so I'll mention what we actually cover in terms of the placement scheme and the apprenticeships as well. But then we've also got opportunities tailored for those who might be at university. So, for example, what I did was the 12-month placement scheme. We have that available. Some summer internships as well. So this year we have a technology summer internship for 12 weeks, which we're currently having an assessment centre tomorrow for those individuals who apply for that. And we also have graduate schemes as well. So a big variety of the different opportunities that we've got that might be applicable to all of you in some sort of capacity. Maybe not all of them, but some of them might be, depending on where you are in your career. So I'll talk about the future scheme. So we have a future scheme, but you can apply for 3 different streams. I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. So if you're an individual who is a student and doesn't know what they want to do, but wants to do some work experience or do a placement, the future scheme could be for you, but you may not necessarily be a technical person or a design related person, but you might want to do something that's business related, which is absolutely fine. We then have business roles future scheme, which you can apply for. So that is one application. We ask that if you do apply, you only apply to one because it can get quite messy. But say, for example, if you apply to the wrong one and you're actually more technical orientated, but you apply to the business role, we can move you across. But we can't allow you to apply to more than one and go through them more than once because the recruitment process is the same for them all. And it means you have more opportunity to do them again and again, which is unfair on other candidates who don't do that. So we just say apply for one that's best suited for yourself. And the minimum requirements we have are 5 GCSEs, grade 4 to 9, including maths and English, 2 years in further education, so A levels are equivalent, but you don't need work experience, which you may think is quite strange. Well, how do you determine who would be good for the role and who not? It's all about what it is you've done and what interests you have that might be aligned to some of our roles. So if you show real passion for, I don't know, say we like coding, for example, if you're really technical and you love software development, then the technical roles might be more suited to you. And if you show like ways that you've gone about doing things outside of your studies, you've built this from scratch using code, it really shows a lot of the assessors that you are a real driver and you're really interested in a certain area. And that would be really, really, really good examples to use in an application with us for the technology roles. It's those sort of things that would get you looked at by managers and reviewers before other candidates as well. But yeah, we have those 3 different areas for the future scheme. So we have business, design, and technology roles. And why we do it like that is because we have a lot of managers who basically advertise roles and they fit into business, design, or technology. I do have a slide a bit about the process, which I'll be able to talk to you about, and it'll make a bit more sense of where that actually fits and how we actually find you a role when you apply. So moving on to the next stage is the apprenticeship scheme. So it's a 3-year scheme for the level 4 or 4 years if you do the degree apprenticeship. It is a full-time permanent role. Okay, so you might be thinking, oh, well, you said it was 3 years, 4 years. So when you get an apprenticeship, your apprenticeship scheme is 3 or 4 years long. But once you finish that, you are still an IBM employee. You are a permanent full-time employee. So what you do is that after those years, you either carry on doing what you're doing in the team that you're doing, or in that time you might thought, let's try something different. I'd like to move into this part of the business and do this as a full-time role. But we have a proper pastoral care system, which really helps you throughout the 3 to 4 years and start thinking about that at the end of your apprenticeship. And the starting salary for that is £21,000. And again, similar to the future scheme, we also divide up our apprenticeships into business, technology, and then degree apprenticeships. So these are the different ones that we have on offer. So we have a junior management consulting for business roles. We have a junior DevOps, test engineer, and software developer for technical roles. And then for the degree apprenticeships, we have digital and technology solutions, chartered business management, and design degree, all at level 6. For the business and technology roles, which are level 4, we just asked for the same 5 GCSEs, grade 4 to 9, or C and above with maths and English. No work experience required for any roles, but we do require predicted/obtained 120 UCAS points just for the degree apprenticeships. That's kind of like the minimum criteria. So you would need that when you apply at the very first stage in order to be considered and taken further. So a little bit of information about degree apprenticeships. It's a mixture of academic study and workplace learning, and are typically assessed using a mixture of assignments, exams, and presentations. Just to kind of give you an idea that you will be a full-time employee and be doing the apprenticeship alongside. So that's currently what I'm doing at the moment. So you kind of have to figure out, how you're going to manage your time to make sure that your assignments are done. You will get given time to do your assignments as well during working hours. I think it's about 25% you get given, which is like an apprenticeship standard in the UK. The university that the student partners with will be chosen by IBM. So the universities are assigned based on the scheme that you'll be working on, and B, the location as well. So we have base locations around the UK, but depending on where you are and where you would like to be based, will also determine what university you'll have as well. So, because we wouldn't make you go all the way down to London for university if you were based up in Manchester, it would not make sense. So that's how we decide on what university you'll go to. We also pay for the course in full as well. So there's nothing that you have to do on that sort of side. It is entirely covered by IBM, which is a nice weight off your shoulders in terms of things like debts and things like that. You do not have to worry about that. It is all covered. And most importantly as well, you don't have to apply for the role through UCAS, for example. We do all of that on your behalf. You do not have to be in contact with them. You only have to go through our recruitment process, and we take care of the rest. Okay, so this is the recruitment process, and this is just to kind of explain how we actually end up finding you a role from when you apply. So we send you that email when you register your interest to say this opportunity is live, you can apply. You will then go in, complete some of the details so that we can contact you and see if you're eligible. And then what we would do is we would send you an application form for you to complete. So we don't ask for a CV. This is because a lot of candidate CVs can be very, very different. We have an application form so it kind of standardize that part of the process, and we can easily compare you between others because we're all asking for the same thing. That then gets reviewed by one of our managers, and they determine whether your application is strong enough to go to what we currently call an exploration session, which is basically the same as an assessment center. So you get invited to a day. Sometimes it's virtual. I know a lot of our schemes are virtual. I think my software labs one is the only one that's in person at the moment. But it's to really help with travel costs and availability, because appreciate some people can be very different parts of the country. So by doing it virtually, it makes it really accessible. And it's basically where you do a presentation and interview at the same time, and then a group exercise. And then if you are successful after doing those two exercises, we then let you know. And we put you into this phase called matching, which is basically where all the candidates who have passed an assessment centre get put into what we call like a goldfish bowl, and managers who have a role which are related to the scheme that you applied for. So, for example, a manager could have a sales role that would be classified as business, or a software developer role, which would be classified as technical. If you applied for the technical one, the manager who has that software developer role can go in and have a look at your application form along with everyone else, and they would then let their talent acquisition partner know if they'd like to select them for an interview. And we would send you some information about the role, see if you're interested. If you are, we would then set up the interview. And if all goes well and the manager really likes you, he could then send you a job offer. And that's basically from start to finish. So that's how we get from you applying to a very general business or technology or degree role to finding you a specific role which meets your kind of interests and potential career aspirations as well. So some things to look out for as well. So when we go through the process, we'll be looking for these sort of competencies throughout. So it could be in your application form, it could be at assessment center, it could even be at the interview as well. And these are, they're not IBM specific. I think you look at some of these and you think, well, yeah, teamwork, communication, that's a given. Adaptability, drive to achieve. So it's all about how you push yourself and others to get to the collective goal as well. Client focus, because we're a very client or orientated business. Ability to take leadership and ownership of certain tasks as well. Not being afraid to stand up and drive things home and take it forward on yourself is also good. And a passion for business as well. Just kind of sound like kind of the summer things to keep in mind. And if you can pick some of these out and include them and have examples of them in your application form, it'll give you a lot of brownie points. So yeah, this is quite an important slide if you really are looking at getting the best chance through applying with us as well. And then probably most importantly of everything, be yourself. I wouldn't say apply to us if you're going to pretend to be someone that you're not. A lot of the interviewers and assessors we've got have been around for donkey's years, so they'll be able to tell whether you're being fake or genuine. But at the end of the day, it's your career. We want to facilitate basically your career. We don't want to guide you and tell you what to do. So be yourself, show your interests, and let us know what you actually are interested in, so that we can support you as best we can. I think that's really, really important. I think if you're interviewing us as an employer at these sort of recruitment process stages, as well as us interviewing you. We want to make sure that we're the right fit for you and you're the right fit for us. I do promise I will stop talking. So I think that's. I'll have this slide for now. So this is our kind of like social media. If you want to have a little bit look, the YouTube channel, for example, is really good if you're wanting to know at what and a life of an apprentice is really good. There's a video on there one of our apprentices did, and she literally took the camera around with her throughout her whole day as an apprentice, and you can see what kind of things she actually does, like hour by hour, what time she gets up, where she goes, who she meets with. It's really good insight to what it's actually like on our YouTube channel. But as well, we've got LinkedIn page, Twitter page, Facebook page, Instagram, and then also the register your interest page at the top. So if you go there, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can give us your details and we'll be able to contact you when opportunities go live, so that you know exactly that you're going to be able to apply for them and you're not going to miss any opportunities. So I've spoken for, oh, there you go, 45 minutes. Stuck to my time as well. I've spoken a lot, and if anybody has any questions at all, like I say, I'll try and answer them as best I can. But it'll be really interesting to see what you guys come up with as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Liam. Now we'll crack on into the questions, shall we? So yeah, obviously we might go for stuff that Liam has already said. It's just the timing of people going in, but we'll fly through them. So Megan says, what kind of support is available for school leavers who want to pursue further education or certifications? I guess that's certificates.
Oh, okay, yes. So I actually forgot to mention probably one of the biggest things that is an asset to joining us as an early professional. So we have these managers called early professional managers, and you basically get aligned to I call them an EPM. We love our acronyms again. Is an EPM. So you get a task manager who you work with on your day-to-day activities as part of the role. But then you get an EPM who is basically there to support your career aspirations, your development, and any further opportunities that you want to do as well. So, for example, if you were looking at wanting to do, maybe it was a master's, for example, or an apprenticeship like myself, you want to get those certificates and further education, you would basically reach out to your early professional manager and let them know that that's something that you want to do. And they will basically take that away, go to whoever they need to, the contacts they need to engage with, and basically say, look, I've got this I've got this employee underneath me who wants to do this. How can we make it happen? So they are for your first point of call of that extra education or further opportunities. They would be who you would go to with that sort of information. Your task manager will definitely be able to help with that, but they would probably also consult your EPM as well to kind of find those opportunities. But yeah, really good question. Apologies, I should have mentioned that. That's my bad.
Well, you mentioned it now, so there you go. Perfect. And on to the next one, Chris says, do you think school leavers have opportunities to develop their own innovative ideas within the company?
Yes, they do. That's a good question. So what we do have, I don't know if many of you know as a company, but we've had the record for the most amount of patents submitted as a company. I'd have to double check. Don't quote me on my statistic, but maybe for the last 40 years or so. So we have a really strong patent program. So say, for example, if you were someone who was a very creative individual, you wanted to make the most of your placement year to create something new. And my actual flatmate on my intern year actually managed to file a patent and actually was compensated for that as well. So I'm not a technical person by any means, but he managed to create a new system to do with tracking of money in his placement year. And his manager would help support him through this kind of like patent process. And by the end of it, he was actually allowed to have a patent filed in his name and be compensated for it as well. So he actually got to have that. Yeah, I think he's got it hung up on his wall now. I still keep in contact with him, but it's like his takeaway from the year. You know, he set out the goal that he wanted to have his first patent and understand what that process was like. And again, no one really said no to him. If he had the idea, he needed the support to go through that process, which his task manager would have had. So if that's the kind of thing that you're also interested in, there's no one stopping you from doing that whilst you're with us as well.
Great. On to the next one for you now. Remy says, what made you want to do an apprenticeship, and is it difficult to balance working and studying?
I'll be very, very honest with you. My sister did it, and watching her do it was painful. And I thought, God, I'm glad I don't do that. And
Wow.
then I remember her saying something like, even though it was such a hard thing to do, I'm
Hmm.
glad I did it. And the reason why she said that is because yes, it was hard and it took up a lot of her time, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's 18 months of really hard balancing your work through really busy periods. What you learn and what it actually does for your day job, you don't notice it during the actual degree or apprenticeship or anything like. You don't notice it
Hmm.
at the time. Once you finish with it, you actually have like a whole new perspective on certain things. So you might come to a problem and you'd be thinking, oh, well, I remember learning about this. I wouldn't have thought about that if I didn't do my apprenticeship. So what I would say is that yes, it's very hard. It will take a while for you to get a good balance. Um, you know, figuring out what time you need to do. So, like, for example, I'm supposed to do 25%. I usually have Friday afternoons to do that because I spend the whole rest of the week trying to fight the fires of a busy work life, and then have Friday afternoons for myself. That might not be the case for everyone, but sticking with it and definitely giving it to go. If you don't think it's for you and you've given it like maybe a month or two, you can always stop if it's really not something that you thought it was going to be. But at least give it a go and see what it's like, because you might doubt yourself, but you might actually think I'm actually a lot capable of doing a lot more than I thought I was. So it's hard, but give it time and figure out what's best for you, and then go from there as well. So
Yeah, great stuff. Vincent says, how do you think IBM helps you grow personally and professionally? And what advice would you give to someone starting their career at the company?
try everything is probably the advice I would give. I was
Mhm.
a nervous wreck when I started as an intern. I didn't even like answering questions in university lectures.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
think
many do,
so.
to be honest.
No, and I think it's the fear of getting it wrong and people
Hmm.
looking at you thinking, what just came out of his mouth? Or did he really just say that? But unless you give it a go, you're never going to get any better. So that's why I would say if opportunities come about, it might seem scary at first. Just say yes anyway. Obviously, if someone's asking way too much, you don't say yes. But if you think that's quite scary, try it. People will always be here to help, whether you need it or not. Um, so, for example, I when I joined this role, I didn't have any ties to attraction events. But my
Hmm.
manager had someone who left who did look after them, and she said, "Would you be interested? I think you'd be great." Um, I said yes, wanted to say no, but now I've kind of took it on board. I understand what it is that I actually need to do as part of these events and what things I need to cover. Talk about public speaking. I was crapping myself for the first one I ever did. But unless you give it a go, you'll never, get better at it. So always say yes, always give it the best you can. Learn from any mistakes that you make. But taking that first step is really, really important. And then, like you say, your confidence will grow. You'll have more belief in yourself and what you can do. And then probably if another opportunity comes out, you'll be like, yeah, I'll do that. And I actually mean it. I actually do want to do it because I think I can definitely do it. Um, think of it like you're trying to pick up as many pencils and put them into your repository of skills as possible. And you need to do certain tasks to pick up those pencils. And by the end of it, you'll probably have like a pencil case full of pencils, and then you need to get a new pencil case. But at least you know that you're capable of getting that new pencil case. So yeah, definitely say yes to everything and make sure you give everything a go, and then learn from your mistakes.
I've never heard an analogy with a pencil case before. That was very good. Um,
Thanks.
question now from Yemisi. I am currently a master's student in United Kingdom studying international business with human resources management. Is there any business roles that they can apply for?
Okay, so master's students, I don't think you would be eligible you wouldn't be eligible for the future scheme. You wouldn't be eligible for the university placement scheme. You would be eligible for the graduate schemes, and you would be eligible for the apprenticeship scheme as well. So, for example, with the apprenticeship scheme, you don't have to be a certain age. We don't discriminate between age. If it's an area that really interested in it and you meet the minimum criteria, then absolutely no problem with that. The same with the graduate scheme as well. They would be absolutely over the moon with someone who's got a mastery, because that comes with a lot of knowledge and experience. But yeah, unfortunately, the futures and the university placement scheme, you wouldn't be eligible, because that's for undergraduates, the placement scheme, and then futures is for the students as well.
Did you have a slide with like your links to website and that on it?
Yes, I think it was the last one. Let me just that's the one.
There
That
you
the
go.
one?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so we have that up for people if anyone wants to go to there, if we need any questions other to answer that we might not be able to answer. But yeah, talking about obviously they're being applicable for which group. So what age group would you say the graduate scheme or graduate program is applicable for?
Oh, yeah. I think the graduate scheme is something like you have to have obtained um, a degree. It doesn't have to be an undergraduate degree. It could be like a master's, for example, but it has to be within 3 years of obtaining that degree.
Okay.
I believe that is. Otherwise, I think if it's any longer than 3 years, you'd then technically be what we call like an experienced hire, which we do have roles for them, but they're not part of a particular scheme. It'd be like applying to a
Okay.
singular job. Yeah.
Great. Question from Charles says, do you have any partner universities that you usually recruit talents from?
Oh, we don't have any specific universities that we go to and only hire from them. We hire from all sorts of universities. We do tend to have a lot of students from Loughborough University, but I think that's just purely by coincidence, because we don't actually share, what university you come with any managers. That's not something that we disclose to them. I think it's just by chance, but I think that might also be because maybe we have a lot of students who actually apply from that university. I know they do a lot in terms of like careers fairs, and I know our students do a lot in terms of going back to Loughborough and doing talks about IBM. So maybe we're just a business that's spoken about quite a lot at University of Loughborough.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't target any individually. We accept and hire from all universities.
Great, good stuff. Simi says, would you say people interact with people at IBM no matter the seniority, sort of the hierarchy of the company?
Yeah, and I actually do have a really good example of this. So weirdly, my HR director for the UK, she is an incredible woman, and she sits with us as if we were the same level as her, same office as her. And she gives everyone the time of day, which is really, really nice. Knows everybody by name, always says hello. If you had any sort of problems, she would always give up the time to speak to you and understand your problems and see if she can help. But yeah, the difference in seniority from her and myself, for example, it's massive. But then, like say for example, when I was running an assessment centre in Hursley, I got a similar question during the day, and I actually was able to say to them, well, there's little old me down at the bottom running this assessment centre with everyone. But my HR director is literally sat opposite me in my office, just literally around the corner. Because we're all based in Portsmouth, but we all sometimes have to go to different offices. And she would always make an effort to sit with colleagues of HR wherever they are in either office. And that doesn't just happen in HR; that happens in other areas of the business as well. It's all about if you need the time, someone, regardless of seniority, will always give it to you, whether that be in some sort of form of support, advice, anything like that. There really isn't that kind of divide between them and us, which is really, really good.
Great. That's good from IBM. So unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. I've got through most questions. If anyone needs to get messaged Liam, I'm sure Liam, you can give out your LinkedIn or email if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, no problem at all. My name is Liam Wars. That's like World War, but with 2 R's. Probably the easiest way to do it. On LinkedIn, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask any questions. I believe my picture is the same as the picture at the very start in front of Hursley House, which is the nice, easy way to find me.
Great. Thank you very much, Liam, and IBM, of course, for joining us today. Take us through your experiences and showing the opportunities that you have to offer for the attendees here. Hope everyone here found it insightful, gained some useful information, and learned a bit more about IBM. And of course, from the poll, maybe have more of an idea of what you want to go into now for a job or anything outside school. Thank you very much. Liam, have you got any final words of advice for people who are maybe leaving school or trying to look for a job, don't know what they want to get into yet?
Yeah, like I said before, always say yes to any opportunity that's available to you. And I think as well throughout your careers, you'll always be interested in feedback as well. So always ask for as much feedback as you can as possible, because you won't be able to learn and develop without it, especially from people who have a lot of experience as well, because you learn the most from them. So always say yes, always ask for feedback. And obviously, like I say, always try and do something interesting. That always helps.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Liam. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I'll hopefully see you all tomorrow for our second day of National Work Experience Week. Cheerio, everyone. Thank you, Liam.
Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers, Andy. Have a good one.